Thursday, January 25th, 2024, 6:15. This is the Troy Human Relations Commission meeting. Call to order. We're going to do, Salome, if you'll do the roll call.
I can do it. Mr. Keller?
Here.
Mr. Major?
Here.
Mr. Sievert?
Present.
Ms. Villalobos?
Present.
Ms. Holocross?
Here.
Mr. Feltner?
We don't need to excuse you, right?
We think he's going to come late, or you want to excuse him?
I don't care. I mean, that's what we do at city council.
Okay.
It's up to you guys. I don't care.
So we believe Mr. Feltner may be late, but we're going to go ahead and keep this is the meeting and a motion to excuse him.
Yes. So I'll move to excuse Mr.
My second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So our next order is approval of the November 16 minutes. Anybody want to call the motion? Probably said it wrong again, as always.
Come on, Marvin.
Thank you.
Oh, Todd, man, it's all you.
Second?
Second by Marvin.
All right. Second by Marvin. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We're going to go to commission member comments. Anybody want to comment first?
Are you
Sorry.
going to talk about this? Or do you want to talk about it?
No, you can talk about it. I talked about it and okay. You can talk about it.
No,
Okay.
well, first of all, I know my public comments from the last meeting would have indicated that I would not be here. However, I drew the lucky straw again, and the mayor was pretty adamant on asking that I come back, and so I told her instead of doing the 3-year term, I would do the 2-year term, but I would agree to do 2 more years. So it's a pleasure to be back with this group, and as I was just talking with Sonia before we began, it is amazing to look back and reflect on all the things, and the majority of us have been around here from the inception and where we've gone, and going all the way back to when we had the meetings at the Senior Citizen Center all the way to where we are now. And I think the legacy that will be lasting are on things like this, the Juneteenth, et cetera. And when I say this, everybody has, I know one of the first things, I think Marvin and Sonia initiated this 2 years ago maybe, was a brochure, I mean, we've had different iterations, a QR code symbol system, different things about just representing Troy's African American culture, and I would compliment Salome for her really unbelievable efforts in continuing to progress with this, to find the pictures, to create the text. And so what I'm referencing is a new brochure that will be put downstairs and disseminated, I'm sure, throughout the community in various and sundry fashions. But it is the Troy, Ohio African American Historical Sites. When you open it up, to your left is going to be the Troy Underground Railroad stops. To your right are going to be other African American historical sites. And when you open it up, is a walking map, or I guess that's probably the best way you could define that, as a walking map that corresponds with each of the locations and historical sites that are referenced throughout the pamphlet. So again, when you know, these are the, I don't know how else to say it except this is very pleasing, and it makes me proud to be back on here and part of why we did what we did 4 years ago now, 3 years ago, whenever it is we started this. So that's all I have, and I'm glad I'm back on, and it's good to see smiling faces, and that's all I have.
Thank you. I'll definitely second Salome, all the work you did, like, we definitely wanted to get noted. She did a lot of work. I think Lauren helped you too, so thank Lauren as well. It wouldn't have been completed without you. We compiled and we did have meetings, but ultimately, both of our historical projects were really, you got it done for us, so I appreciate that as well.
Yes, you did.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so anybody else have any comments?
I would like to say that just, I'd like to echo, I guess, Todd, and your thoughts on this. This is really nice that our city has taken a step forward to put something like this out and to make our community more inclusive and a little better for all those that may walk through it. I think that this is a really good stepping stone for the rest of the work that the HRC should hopefully continue to do in the next couple of years. My hope and goal is that we bring more projects about that allows our city to be seen as a beautiful community that's accepting and that people feel comfortable being a part of. And I'll say one goal that I have is to make the city feel kind of how I felt when I went to Lexington, Kentucky as a teenager. So I grew up in Cleveland, and cities are a little rough and not so clean everywhere, and people will, you know, if you're going into a store, people will basically shut the door, you know, and they will never hold the door open for you. And I think it's just a Cleveland thing. And the whole reason that I chose to go to school in Kentucky is because when I went on my visit there, I had old white people, women and men would hold the door for me, black people too. And it was just like this beautiful, like I felt safe, I felt, I don't know, I just felt like it was
Beloved community?
a city where people, yes, kind of like loved each other, you know, and they didn't have any malice in their heart, and they were just happy, you know, to be a citizen of that community. So I'm hoping that Troy can further its advancement with that in mind. So that's my goal for our community, for our city, for the next couple of years. Hopefully we can advance that together. And thanks for serving everyone and continuing to be a part of that, because it's extremely important that this work continue. So that's all I got.
Thank you very much. Just to piggyback on Mr. Major's comments, as he was talking, what came to my mind and heart is beloved community. We all know that was Dr. Martin Luther King's dream, that he had a beloved community. And so our MLK March, shout out to our chief, who always walks with us, which is wonderful. But we did an aesthetic, if you will, a mosaic of MLK, and it reflected our entire community, from history to our church pains to kids learning and parents, families learning in our development classes. And again, I'm feeling that beloved community now too, as I'm looking at an historical building that people corralled together, although I really want to drive down the street, the love that they did and bought the building so now they can refurbish it, to us getting the Ohio Historical Marker, and we're going to celebrate the civil rights people. Again, back to the march that we had the sheriff with us, the drone on top recording, we had the city chief walking with us. It was together, it was collective. So I think we are definitely like hitting our mark. We're looking past just color, and I really do feel like we're starting to blend. It makes me really excited to be a part of this team and group as well. So I agree with that. I think we need to keep that as the #1 priority, to keep that advancement going. And so I'm excited to be a part of whatever projects that we're going to decide to do moving forward. So I'm going to let Co-Commissioner John Keller kind of lead us in some comments, because I think we're going to have a good conversation.
I just wanted to, again, go back to our operating guidelines, and in Article 5, it talks about our meetings, that within the first quarter of each calendar year, the HRC shall update a list of initiatives. So again, we have a brochure. That was an initiative. It's a so a lot of good work's been done. But again, I thought it would be good to have conversation tonight, following our guidelines, to what are other initiatives, what do we still have on our list to do, and are there other initiatives we want to look at this year? And I know that the Troy Foundation, Melissa Kleps, has been working at bringing to the community a diversion, equity, and inclusion training, and I talked with her this week, and that's still on the radar, and she's also been talking with the Chamber of Commerce. They want to be a part of that. They want to bring in the IDEA Troy and bring the HRC into that. But again, that falls under enlisting cooperation amongst the community. But I'm happy to report that initiative is not maybe directly underneath us, but we are being invited into that initiative of this training. And as she gets, there's some more conversations for her to have before it. But it's in the plan, so that's exciting to me, because I
definitely.
I think there's still a huge lack of understanding, and the only way we're going to have better understanding is through education. So, so that I just wanted to note that that's out there. Melissa said that's moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Does she have an anticipated training date?
Not yet. Nope. It's kind of in its infancy stage right now, she said, but
awesome.
But it's still moving forward, so that's a good thing.
Okay.
And so that's one initiative that we're going to be invited into, those that want to participate in that, and we can promote that. But again, I just wondered, looking at our operating guidelines, what are there new initiatives that we want to, that are important for us to maybe have on our agenda and work towards this year? And this kind of goes back to some of your comments at our last meeting, Marvin.
Yeah.
We aren't done yet. There's
Right.
still work to
Yes.
do.
Yep.
So I'll throw one out and we can flush it out together. Everybody knows the line of work that I do, and so I think there's a population, a demographic that is not being represented and is in greatly need of help, and it imposes the entire community. This is the population that some refer to as a tent city or a woods person or a river guy or whatever you want to call it, but I'd like to bring light to incompetency. If people are incompetent, which they're not able to make their own decisions, I would really love to be able to have a side team, get some data, and maybe talk to our hospitals about what does it mean, duty to do harm, right, versus suicidal. Because what we're doing is we're leaving droves of people that are in the woods that are dual diagnosed because of incompetency, or they're incompetent because of. And in my opinion, and Chief, you're more than welcome to say a yay or nay, it's a problem when you're constantly dealing with this demographic that we know they're not competent and they should be in a place that can help them become restorable. We're actually doing harm by not doing anything. And so I would like to very much, and it's very easy to do, to research that, to bring light so we can educate our mayor in what is going on, and, you know, if she decides to take it to the next level to protect all of us and them, because they're Troy citizens as well, I think that's a huge deal. We also have, to segue on another initiative, we have an outrageous amount of senior homeless people right now. I mean, the shelter is filled with seniors that are homeless. And when you think about being a senior, you're not necessarily going to go to Clopay and get a living wage job, right, or anywhere. You're probably on disability or retirement, you know, so again, it's harder to house the population that's not, I guess, income savvy, or however you want to say the word. So I think those two populations are greatly under advocated for right now, and again, as a city that's a beloved city, that's part of that theme. We don't leave anybody unhoused, we don't leave anybody incompetent. And I also think about the hours and the time that our PD has to deal with by constantly going out and, you know, chasing incompetent people through a woods or whatever to the sheriff's department, who has to then incarcerate them, knowing
They shouldn't be
that they
incarcerated.
shouldn't be there because their suicide attempt rate is ridiculous. And again, we're causing trauma to that demographic as well. So in the spirit of beloved community, now we're bringing that scope out, and we're starting to see other vulnerable populations as well. And they're of all colors.
I would love to help with all those initiatives. I would love to help. Just we need to understand where to start. One additional initiative that I wanted to work on this year was just understanding how the drug epidemic is affecting our community. And I know, Salome, you had pulled some data for that, and
I think we could pair that with that initiative.
yeah.
Yeah, because most of them, methamphetamines are a drug of choice because of price and being able to get it. And we know personally that a person that's on methamphetamines now is mimicking schizophrenia, which if you mimic schizophrenia and you get them into one of our mental health facilities, then it's the slippery slope to they get disability, but they're dual diagnosed, and then they become, you know, overdose, die, whatever, because again, we're putting the cart before the horse. So it's way bigger than us, but I think both of those kind of mimic together of what's going on. I know at Partners in Hope we've seen just this week alone a slew of people that common denominator is they're in 10 cities, they're using methamphetamines, but they can't move their limbs like they normally would. Like they're coming in just complaining of this crazy pain, they're rubbing their like joints and stuff, and we're just like, is something like a bad batch, or like we don't know.
Yeah, that's a different type of drug.
Yeah, but again, it's the whole population, or they'll get an outbreak of Hep C, and then you'll see them literally walking around yellow. So I think that we definitely should have like a subcommittee to do research. And again, if Chief has time, or if somebody would want to kind of help us with that, because I feel like they really are dealing with this even more than our mental health facilities, which is blowing my mind.
Have we had an outbreak of Hep C here?
We'd have to call the epidemiologist. Do you know if we've had I don't know what qualifies as an outbreak. If it's 4 or 5 people, I don't know if that makes it an outbreak or...
I believe about a year ago, the health department was concerned about it, but it was at least regional. I don't know exactly what the Miami County numbers were, but I believe there's also, recently there's been some information going around about STDs and an STD outbreak too.
Yeah, I sent a couple people over for STD checks that disclosed genital warts and things of the nature as well. So yeah, that's kind of a big deal. Do you think, what's your opinion in regards to like mental health and incompetency? Is it out here?
You know, we value freedom, and we value somebody's choice to live the way they want to live, and to not force somebody to be involuntarily committed. And the bar to involuntarily commit somebody is pretty high. And I think that's why we end up with people living in tent cities in the woods, because they haven't rose to a level where they can be involuntarily committed, yet we're at the state where they know what they're doing. I was recently provided with an essay. I think it was maybe a research paper. Maybe you saw this too. It was a man that wrote under a pen name, I believe, that befriended about a dozen people that were homeless here in Troy and lived in the woods.
The Dayton Daily News.
Was it posted in the Dayton Daily News?
Yeah.
So I got it by email from another city staffer, and one of his observations I thought was very interesting is that everybody he befriended and met and got to know, he said, was using methamphetamines.
They are, yeah.
Oh, wow.
They'll come in self-report that I'm high right now, and this is what's going on. So again, like we're seeing that epidemic, if you will, happening, and I just think that something needs to happen. Because again, if you're incompetent, you're not really making choices that are safe for you or the community. And at one point, wasn't the EPA getting involved with things being thrown in the river? Like, we're even polluting our...
Yeah, I don't know if that was necessarily in Troy. I never had any direct communication with the EPA in Troy, but I think I'd heard some stories from you about some other jurisdictions where there were some concerns. I mean, how many people have we worked on together where...
Yeah.
Sonia, can you help us out?
That's kind of where I'm at now, yeah, right. Like our Walmart, you know, again, is walking around waiting to be the succession. She's the Queen of England. No family, nobody, and again, it's winter.
She's got an ex-husband that has reached out to us and said, when she's ready, I will help her.
We need to talk tomorrow. Okay, well, we need to talk because she's back on the streets. And so we got Social Security appointments, but again, giving money to somebody that's not competent, are we hurting or helping? So I think it's beneficial to even have conversations just with mental health in regards to Kettering and Premier. You know, what does it mean to do no harm? And the key word is I have to say, I'm going to kill you or kill myself, but we all know, like, okay, they're picking things out of their ears or they're doing things that it's going to harm themselves. And so, again, if we can all at least have the same language, I think we'll be a stronger community and help you guys as well. I know it's no fun to have to be the mental health provider as well as the protector, and
Right. I mean, my understanding of the history, you know, behind where we're at with mental health is, you know, at one point in the 50s, you know, we housed people in facilities, and some of those were atrocious, and now the pendulum has swung the other way, where you know, maybe some type of facilities would be appropriate, but they need to be humane.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
Chief, as we're talking about initiatives for the coming year, is there anything that we could do that would be helpful to you and your staff? within our, again, operating guide,
you know, probably one of the biggest challenges that I discuss every day is our current state of hiring and recruiting. You know, we are down 4 officers now. We had 2 leave to go to a city down in Dayton, closer to where they live. And we've had 1 opening. We have 1 new position, and so I'm counting that 1 new position in the, what was the 4th position that we now have open? I forget why we have the 4th opening. It's escaping me right now, but I mean, it's currently the hiring and recruiting is pretty cutthroat. We had heard from one of our newest recruits that the day he graduated, or a week after he graduated from the academy, another city was reaching out to him, asking him to apply at their city. And it's just, you know, some of these cities are throwing money at new officers. And, you know, there's some point where this is going to have to stop. You know, we can't just continuing raising pay and benefits without raising taxes eventually. So where this ends, I don't know, but recruiting and hiring people and then retention of those people after we hire them is probably one of the things I worry about the most. When we talk about us being 4 officers short and 1 being a new position, so if you say we're 3 people short, I have 1 officer that is deployed right now with the Army National Guard or Ohio National Guard, and then I have 3 officers in training that are on FTO, so they really don't count towards our manpower because they always ride with a field training officer until, you know, we feel that they have acquired enough skills and knowledge to be set out on their own.
It's a good time to be a cop.
Yeah, so effectively, you know, we're down more than 4 people because of the people that are deployed and in training.
How soon before the people will be out of training, the 3?
2 of them just started FTO, 1's halfway through FTO. Our FTO period lasts about 13 weeks that they ride with an officer, but that can always be extended. You know, they're constantly evaluated on a daily basis. And then the last week, they ride with an officer who's in plain clothes, and they're asked to perform basically as a single unit as they would after they're released from the training period. And we've had officers that have failed the training period, and left on their own, sometimes. I don't think we've had to fire any FTOs, but, our theory behind it is that if you're still learning, if you're still getting better, we're gonna keep you on and we're gonna continue to train you. But if you reach a plateau where you're, not learning and you're making the same mistakes over and over, we need to probably discuss going our separate ways.
Yeah.
So.
Is there anything offhand that could be helpful for retention? Is there like a common theme that they say?
For retention, sometimes, it a lot of times falls down to sometimes pay and benefits.
Okay.
And like I said, that's a bigger picture budget issue for the entire city, because, the city has other employees they have to pay too.
Gotcha.
That's not really true. As the finance committee person and being a part of that whole thing, you saw the compensation schedule, we're up in the top for where things are. I mean, there was a offer made to begin negotiations early that no one's taken advantage of to increase that opportunity. But I'm not going to stand here and say we're not paying our people. In the years I've been here, and you have to agree with that. We're where we need. We're where we are competitively with other people during the contract that was entered into. Once the new contract gets negotiated, then those numbers are subject to change. But that's not going to happen until we commence new negotiations, and that proposal was extended to all union agencies, and unless Solomon knows something, no one's accepted that offer to begin negotiations early.
Do we need to do a recommendation?
We can't get that.
Well, can you help?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of discussions that have been going back and forth, between the unions and the administration, and I guess it's the chief, where, I came up through the ranks. I feel like, I'm trying to get both sides to kind of come together and see the other side, and that's where I'm at, but it's not necessarily, something that may happen, and it's a negotiation process that has to go through. I try to remain neutral and help each side maybe come to an agreement, but,
my point is,
it's frequently pointed out to me what some of the cities are getting around here, and...
But you have to understand, and you know this, Sean, we want to be as beneficial. There's not a city council person who doesn't want you guys to have anything and everything that you basically want. The problem is, you enter into these contracts, you can't change it. We can't say, oh, we're going to raise you more money during this period of time. You have a contract. That contract, and you know the laws and you know the rules, and that can't be renegotiated at certain periods of time. That's how that whole process works. That's why we have those labor relation boards. That's why we have the lawyers that we have to pay, and you guys have the officers have the lawyers that they have to pay, and they do hours and hours of research and studying and determine where the values are, and you enter into a contract, and that contract is valid until the next negotiation process. And there was significant increases in healthcare. There's been significant increases in, HSAs have been started since I've been on council. I'm not just saying that in the most recent contract, but that isn't something. I think it's unfair for HRC people who don't understand the process to be put into this position that, we could just go out and say we're going to give everybody
No, that's,
2%.
so I asked a question about retention. That wasn't anything that anyone was complaining about. I just simply asked a question. I just want to be clear, because I know Chief was not complaining about pay. He was just answering the question.
Yeah, maybe the request that I would have more from the HRC would not be pay and benefits, but would be more on trying to bring young people into the interest of law enforcement as a career. Can they help us with possibly going to the schools. And one of our difficulties in that situation is you can't be a police officer until you're 21. So if we go into the high schools, we're looking at, people, we can't see you, we can't hire you until you're 21. And that's one of the things that's like, well, how do we, if we, do we go into the junior, the two-year colleges? And the two-year colleges, a lot of them around here have law enforcement programs. When we go to those law enforcement programs, the people that are paying or are attending the academy tracks in those academies, a lot of them are spoken for already. So other agencies are putting people in these and paying, their tuition and paying them. And when we started doing that to be competitive, we've sent 3 people to the academy since 2 years ago, and that's helped with our recruiting. Like I said, the 2 most recent ones went to the Ohio State Highway Patrol, and they just graduated. And then before that, we picked up a person who's going to the Greene County Career Center, and we picked him up right after he signed up. He paid his own tuition to attend the academy, but we paid him a salary, and he's a good one. He's a really good officer, and we're glad we got him. But I have captains and sometimes officers going to these academy classes, and a lot of them are already guaranteed a job, if not already on the payroll. The sheriff has discussed, because if he can put somebody on the payroll as a corrections officer at age 18, he's almost got a natural pipeline where he can get people in at age 18 in the jail. We don't run a jail. And then, dangle that carrot out there as, eventually you can become a sworn officer. But, he's offering a $5,000 sign-on bonus right now, which, I mean, it's cutthroat right now. And, I will agree with Mr. Sievert, and that, pay and benefits are a separate realm that the HRC shouldn't be involved in, but you guys asked the question.
Yeah, again, I wanted to clarify, because I did ask that question, so.
But police work, because of the media, negative media attention over the last couple of years, is not a very popular career choice right now, and we're struggling with it. We hear stories about Cincinnati area agencies that people are bouncing back and forth and they're stealing each other for $1 an hour more, and it's almost like an arms race. Well, we'll give you an extra day off, or we'll let you work out on duty or something like that, or we have a canine unit, we'll give you a canine unit, or we have a motorcycle unit, we'll give you a motorcycle if you come work for us, and it's really just cutthroat right now.
Wow.
My thought is that police officers should be treated like teachers. I've always thought this since my father came back from Vietnam, and me understanding his thought process on different things. I think, I don't know, I would be all for paying our cops in our city to work 9 months on, and then they're off for 3 months so that they get a chance to just
mental health break.
A deep mental health break. Yeah. So.
But I mean, the answer isn't stealing officers from other cities.
Yeah.
I mean, the answer is how to get new people into the field.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of where we are. And Mr. Wills, that we just brought on board with Mr. Marshall, we courted him for 2 years. He initially reached out to us with an interest card, and we found out that he served in the same Marine Corps unit as Sergeant Freisteller, and Sergeant Freisteller gave him a glowing review. At that time, we didn't have the program where we could send people to the police academy. Mm-hmm. Well, from working with city administration, we came up with a program where we could send people to the police academies, and Mr. Wills, Officer Wills, was still willing to apply for us. Well, he took the civil service test, and the first time he took it, he failed our civil service test. So we gave him some coaching. There's a practice test you can take online. We brought him into the police station, said, here's the practice test. And 3 months later, he took it, and he passed it. And so this was a 2-year process.
Yeah.
And we stayed in constant contact with him to bring him on board. And, I mean, it's intensive, to court somebody that long. I mean, luckily, we've got 3 candidates right now that we have applications for that we're processing for background investigations. I can't say whether or not, so far, they look like decent candidates. One is already a certified officer that has just completed her police academy, and then the other 2 are not.
We heard of her. I heard of her.
So, being able to send people to an academy definitely opens up our ability to select people from a wider demographic, too.
Yeah, that's true. Very true.
And just so you're aware, the fire department has a similar program.
Yeah, I sat on that. Yeah, that one's a very good one.
Probably a couple years before yours, right? 4 or 5 years ago, that this program started?
Yeah.
So when we paid for the academy, the city, what is their commitment to the city? How long?
We asked them to sign a repayment agreement for 3 years, and it decreases over the course of those 3 years.
Okay.
So, and we can't ask for salary back. What we ask for is like training equipment costs, which we've kind of, and it's gone up just recently. We started out at $3,000, and I think it's $5,000. So the first year they're supposed to pay back $100. If they leave voluntarily, from their position, we ask for 100% back, and then it's 75 and 50, I think, the third year. But then again, we've been told that Cincinnati agencies will pay that in a heartbeat. And they, like I said, one of our new candidates got an offer, or not an offer, but a request to come apply for us. And I'm sure this city has enough money to pay that repayment agreement if they really wanted to. He luckily felt some desire to stay with us, and he told us about the offer, so he
Got loyalty. That's good.
yeah, he felt some loyalty
You like
because
that.
of what we invested in him.
Good. Well, that shows his character. That's good.
Again, I appreciate how you continue to give us reports, and it looks like, again, that you have, the officers you have are doing a good job of being fair and equitable when they are encountering people, and that certainly falls under us. So I appreciate your transparency, and again, the police reports that you've offered us, I feel, show us that the department's working hard at being fair and equitable when dealing with the public, when we choose to break the law.
Thank you. Just as a side note about the cost, the State Highway Patrol Academy, there is no tuition. Room and board is included in that. So that room and board and tuition is provided by the state, and it's my understanding that was started when the casinos were put in. So the casino taxes pay for the State Highway Patrol's training for basic recruits. They have 2 different kinds of recruits at the State Patrol Academy. That's their cadets that are going to be troopers, and then basic cadets that are sponsored by a police department that will return to their department after they graduate.
Okay.
A lot of information.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you
welcome.
very much. Todd, you had mentioned, I think it was like 2 meetings ago, the initiative that we had talked about, I think it was like last year, the Welcome Center. Is that still?
Yeah, that was going to be a good.
Okay. I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that, or is...
No, but I have one that
Yeah.
Mr. Keeler and I have talked about a lot, and I don't know how the process would be, but
Okay.
one, you've talked about the homeless and the mental health issues.
Mm-hmm.
An area that people don't recognize, and it's difficult because it's typically not discussed or brought about, are under Ohio law, a child born to an unwed mother, the father has no right to tell further until an order of the court. There's also situations where perhaps there's been violence or there's civil protection orders, and the family unit, there's no place for visitation to occur in our area.
Yep.
10 years ago or so, we had a visitation house. was funded through a federal grant. That grant went away. I think the director, who's a wonderful person, but was kind of just tired of it because she was doing the grunt of the work, and so when you're there 7 days a week, 10 hours a day, it gets pretty problematic. A church in Darke County got together and started offering that services in Darke County. There's a church-ish type group. I don't know that it's actually sponsored by a church, but I think it originated from a church that runs a visitation house in Salina. And, you know, we're sort of here, allegedly a more progressive town than those, or more involved towns, and we don't have that facility or that opportunity available. And there's, I can't quote that, I could find some, but there's empirical data through the roof that says, you know, bonding is important in keeping these visits happening, and I mean, even if they're of short duration, especially with younger kids, if they're a short duration, that's really all it takes to establish the bond. They get familiar with the smell, they get familiar with the voice, they get familiar with the you know, details of that person. And anyways, I don't know how much the HRC can do, because obviously we don't have really funds, except maybe to help share and promote, and maybe a church or an agency or somebody would hear our claims, and I would be glad to talk to someone. I mean, I've been a family law lawyer for 35 years. I can give you examples time and time again where you know, that bond needs to continue, even if it's in a supervised capacity, because you know, if you go 8, 10, 12, 14, 2 years without seeing your kid, just kids are kids, and that falls to the wayside, and that bond falls to the wayside. And so if I was looking at anything that I would think that the HRC can, maybe it is a personal investment, but I think that that's an area that we could and potentially should look at. It's not, you know, I mean, I think if we look holistically at human relations, I think that's part of what we would.
Do you think Isaiah's place in their child advocacy center, would that be good to?
That's a completely different purpose.
Okay.
The Child Advocacy Center is where, rather than put a child in a sterile environment who's been abused or neglected or dependent, that they serve to kind of gather that information and provide that information to. Now, whether Isaiah's place has I mean, I've never been in their facility on Experiment Farm or whatever, Stanfield, I don't know, out there someplace. But, you know, I mean, what we had here, the Methodist Church kind of ran it the last time, and it was just a building that they had owned, and they had put together, I think, 3, were you involved in it? You were there.
We were looking for a place that I never started.
Okay.
It was
So
there.
it was like 3 rooms that were set up, and you could go, and they weren't you weren't overlooking the people. You had cameras, and you could engage in social activities and game playing and conversations.
It's more a safety plan, more of a safety. You need an entrance, you need an exit, you need drop off your child, somebody will watch them within 15 minutes, giving the other person, the other party enough time to leave so that the other person can come and spend time. When there's a civil protection order involved, will somebody arrive on time? Will they not arrive on time? Will they be together at the same time? It's a lot of safety planning, and it entails a lot more. We did read a lot of procedures as far as starting one up, but it was a little difficult with the safety planning. had to give them 30 minutes versus 15 minutes.
So you need staffing.
Oh, you
Yeah.
definitely need staff.
Staffing is probably the
Yeah.
You know, and of course, you have that 30-minute window to watch, you know, but it's the civil protection orders, they can't be within the same block. I mean, it's just, and sometimes they don't have civil protection orders.
Mhm.
Sometimes they're civil, you know, it all depends. But as far as the funding goes, I believe the court would have the parties pay, I think it was like $25 per visit, which would fund, but I mean, $25 per visit, how many could you possibly have?
Right.
During visitations, and then in the evenings, parties work, or in the daytime, so you'd have like full room in the evening.
The Methodist Church sold that house, right? I think it was sold before we moved out of the parsonage of the Methodist Church.
Yeah, I don't know what became of
It was really functional. I mean, it wasn't like, it was hard, you know, drama or anything. It was, not a lot of people even realized what it was.
So what's the name of that program in other cities? Do you guys know?
Mm-hmm.
I like to research it.
Education.
They're different names,
Yeah.
they all have different names.
I like
The one
that.
that's run by the church in Dark County, I don't think is affiliated with the court. I think, so I don't know if they have different, what Ruby's describing, I think, was when we were trying to get federal grant money, and so you had certain requirements that you had to meet, and to do that, where, and I've never been over to my understanding that the Dark County one is more volunteer related and sort of staff volunteer. There may be somebody that's paid, I don't want to speak on something I don't know, but I think that's kind of how they do theirs. And without disclosing anything, I'm probably going to learn a lot about Salinas in the next couple months. So,
I think it's a worthy initiative.
Place of
As
Peace
well.
is one.
Where's that at?
Dayton's is called Irma's House.
Do you like that, like, do you prefer, I guess, the model of like a church,
Ohio.
one of our churches opening
Ravenna,
up
Ohio.
a parsonage, or are you thinking of like an agency coming as a business?
Yeah, and as far as government funds, I know that a lot of the times we wanted to try and keep it inside the Troy city limits so that we're not outside of the city limits, near the expressway, you know, stuff like that. It's more of a safe precaution.
No, I get that. I mean, look, nobody wants anybody to get hurt trying to help people. And Sean can tell you, there's probably none more emotionally charged. And everybody says, you know, the criminal defense people see bad people at their best, and the divorce lawyers see good people at their worst. So.
Well, when they closed, a lot of people stopped exchanging custody there, and now we still to this day have
You
people
gotta do
exchange
it.
custody at the police department lobby or the parking lots. We also sometimes suggest, you know, go to a place that has a big crowd so that there's independent witnesses there if something happens. So, but, you know, we deal with people that have to, you know, find a neutral third party to exchange custody with their former partner because of protection orders and things like that. So a mom or a parent or a friend or something like that to do that, so.
That's interesting. I think that's a really good initiative. I think they all are.
Yeah, and there's one that comes to mind that Todd and I worked on one time, the
What's
Columbus Police Department. There's one that comes to mind, so.
Nice. Well,
Again, looking at our operating guidelines, enlisting cooperation through government agencies, churches, I think that's a very real initiative. We could work at enlisting, I have some churches in mind already that maybe we could enlist and share the idea with, and
invite them in.
I think that's doable, Todd, I really do.
I do too.
I mean, as we talk about it, and maybe, you know, and I can coordinate this or do some outreach if it is something we start to explore. The current juvenile court judge was the magistrate at the time who sort of put together that initiative. So I see him on a relatively routine basis, and I know maybe about 4 or 5 years ago there was maybe it was your group, but somebody started an influx, and he was kind of excited about it, and then it just became too be difficult. So I think there would potentially be some, at least some court guidance. I don't want to say support, because I don't want to speak on behalf of the court, but I think that he would at least be willing to sit down and talk to us. I think it's okay when they're doing that, so.
Yeah, I like it.
We're at it now.
All right, well,
I have some colleagues I can talk to that I think maybe could be interested in something like this and have some resources to give towards this. So I'll talk with them and we'll see where it goes.
You had a great job. I mean, we don't have to wait till April. You
Right,
had a
right.
great-
No. Yeah, I'm having coffee with one tomorrow, so
Okay, good.
I take this as a
oh, the council of churches.
kind of a divine
They
inspiration.
get together very much, but
Sure.
this might be a good reason.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. Right. Was there any more initiative ideas on the table?
I think we need to meet with the Council of Churches this year at some point.
I know, I just said that,
Yes.
like, we need to find the
Yes.
council.
They don't exist, Marvin.
Well,
Yes.
we can help them.
It's a
too.
really good reason for them to come together, though,
They-
because everybody actually talks about that.
I
Since
know.
it's been gone in the church world, it's just everybody, I guess maybe we all assumed that Isaiah's place was going to kind of be the buzz, but you're right, that is a more forensic type, yeah.
At least what they're doing now. I don't know
Yeah.
what their long-term goals or objectives. I could talk about Library next time I see it, but
Mhm.
their role right now is really just
Okay.
information gathering in a more
Yep.
appropriate
Mhm.
setting, so that you're not,
Yeah.
you know.
And keeping kids safe and doing what they got to do. Yep. Makes sense. All right. Those are amazing initiatives, every one of them. Every one of them are very good. All right. So then if we don't have any more, we will switch to public comments.
There's no public.
No public, and that's completely fine. So I think we will adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Motion?
Second.
Aye. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. We're done.